Abandoned in a bridge culvert by my reborn older brother, I ended up with a strange family. My father is 15, he steals powdered milk and clumsily feeds me. My mother is 12, she steals yarn and keeps me warm through the whole winter. My little father is 10, he steals toys just to make me laugh. They used stolen things to build me a home on the ruins of an old house. When my birth parents found me and reproached them, I coldly tossed out, "None of your damn business." They don't understand that some families are born wrapped in silk and jade yet are full of hatred. But my family began with theft and was built full of love. Nana, don't blame me. If anyone's to blame, blame yourself for coming back, and for getting Sophia killed. Cold words rang in my ears. It was Ethan's voice. But how could that be? Didn't I already die of illness on that neglected winter night? I forced my eyes open, everything was a blur. I tried to speak, but what came out was, For a moment I was stunned. He held me tightly in his arms, his rapid breathing and pounding heart were in my ear. I don't know how long he ran, but finally he stopped and dropped me onto the cold ground. Only if you die can Sophia live out this life in peace. After he finished speaking, he turned and left without a backward glance. The wind was bitter, I shivered in my swaddling clothes. It turned out the first thing my reborn brother did was make sure I died again. Scenes from my past life flashed through my mind like a fast-forwarded film. Maliciously switched at birth, I suffered for 18 years in the Chen family. When my biological parents finally found me, I thought it was salvation. I remember the day we returned home. Sophia stood on the stairs in a white dress, tears flowing before she spoke. Mom impatiently said to her, "Why haven't you moved out yet?" She cried until her eyes were wet, yet she still smiled and said, "Mom, I'll move out in a bit." In the end, that very day she killed herself in the bathroom. From then on, the whole family came to hate me. The biting wind pulled my thoughts back, my consciousness grew dim. To die like this would be fine. Before my awareness sank into darkness, I heard a clear male voice. "Why is there a baby here? She's so small, so pitiful." The girl gently touched my cheek. I want to hold her," a boy cried, waving his arms with excitement. When I woke again, I was in an earthen house. The walls were plastered with yellow mud, the roof beams blackened, draped with age-old cobwebs. 3 children were arguing by the bedside. "We can't even feed ourselves, how could we raise her?" Cole frowned. "Take her to the police station tomorrow. That's the safest bet. Take her to the police, and she ends up in a state home." Ava's voice choked all at once. "I can't let her become a second me." Cole was silent for a moment, his voice lowering. "Maybe her family is looking for her." "Looking for her?" Ava sneered. "If they really cared, would they leave her to die under the bridge? What if she was taken?" "I don't care about anyone else." Ava cut him off, stubbornly wiping her eyes. "All I know is, if we leave her now, she could die." They argued without resolution, then both turned to the boy who had been silent beside them. "Gray, what do you think?" Gray chuckled, "Sis, bro, I'm fine with either." Ava, "See? Gray agrees with me." Cole, "See? Gray thinks the same as I do." Gray didn't look at them, he lay on the edge of the bed, his clear eyes unblinking as they stared at me. When he saw me open my eyes, his own brightened suddenly. He awkwardly extended a finger and gently touched my cheek. "Smile." He mumbled, then looked up at the two who were arguing and shouted happily, "You're awake." The argument stopped abruptly. Ava and Cole both leaned over at the same time, 6 eyes anxiously fixed on me. I stared blankly at the 3 youthful faces before me. They looked so small. Much smaller than the me who had died in despair in my previous life. After Sophia died, my mother went mad. One moment she was gently smoothing my hair, her eyes red and her voice choked, "My Nana has suffered." The next moment, at the instant she learned of Sophia's death, a slap cut through the air and struck my face with full force. "It's you. You killed her. Give me back my Sophia." She lunged at me, hands clamping around my throat, her nails digging deep into my flesh. My father kept his back to us the whole time, standing by the window, cigarette butts piled at his feet. My brother Ethan returned from abroad after Sophia had already been cremated. He hadn't even seen her one last time. He shoved me down the stairs. My body tumbled over the steps, amid the searing pain. All I heard was his cold voice, "Go join Sophia in the grave." Lying in a pool of blood, staring into his eyes filled with hate, my heart died completely. Perhaps I should never have been born into this world. Why isn't she crying or screaming? Cole broke into my thoughts with a voice full of doubt. Ava reached out and very gently held me in her arms. Her arms were thin, but her embrace was unusually warm. "Is she sick?" She looked down at me, and in her eyes was a kind of pure worry I had never seen before. Gray stood on tiptoe, trying to lift an old, faded but polished bell up to my face. He gave it a gentle shake. Ding-ling. The clear sound of Chinue rang out like sunlight piercing through storm clouds, crisply spreading through the shabby earthen room. "Don't be sick," he said anxiously. Pain, go away." In that moment, the care I had sought but never received in my previous life somehow found its outlet in these children. Overwhelmed with grievance, I burst into tears with a wah. I didn't even know exactly what I was feeling wronged about. My crying sent Ava into immediate fluster. Gray shook the bell even harder. Don't cry, don't cry." Cole turned and ran out, and not long after he came back out of breath carrying a bowl of warm milk. "She must be hungry." The milk in the bowl was finished, my body warmed, and my reason slowly returned. Only then did a flush of embarrassment hit me. My soul was at least 20 years old, yet I had cried so wildly in front of 3 children, quite shameful. But they clearly hadn't minded my loss of composure, worrying instead about the next problem. "What if she's hungry again tonight?" Ava asked, gently patting my back, her brow furrowed. "That milk I just got from the village chief's house," Cole said awkwardly, looking away and hanging his head in guilt. Gray insisted on drinking it. Gray, who'd been called out, immediately puckered into a small, sullen face and complained wronged, "Brother's mean." A deeper flush of embarrassment crossed Cole's face. After a short silence, Ava hesitated before speaking. "I heard people say during the day, in the apricot blossom village next door, there's a family keeping a cow." When the words fell, the earthen room went completely silent. "I'll go." Cole paused a moment, grabbed an old tin can, and headed for the door. "No," my heart leapt. In the countryside of the 90s, if you were caught stealing, you'd really be beaten senseless. Someone like me, how could I be worth him taking that kind of risk for? I flailed my arms and legs in a panic, trying to stop him. "Ah, the little sister is playing with me." Gray, attracted by my waving arms, happily sidled over and, with careful little fingers, touched my fingertips. Ava also showed a hint of a smile. "See, she likes you." I wasn't playing. I was trying to stop Cole. I brushed Gray's hand away, watched Cole's retreating back as he walked toward the door, opened my mouth, and burst into loud, heart-wrenching sobs. Maybe only this could make Cole stay. Ava immediately scooped me up and gently rocked me. Gray fussed anxiously beside us, shaking his little bell until it jingled. But their comforts meant nothing to me. My eyes were fixed on that closed, shabby wooden door. "Don't go, Cole, come back. I'm not worth you doing this." A crushing helplessness and panic seized me, and I sobbed uncontrollably. "Not worth it, someone like me isn't worth it." The room was as cold as an icehouse. Ava wrapped me tight in her arms, her eyes, like mine, staring fixedly at the battered wooden door. My chest pounded with a frantic, disorderly heartbeat that thudded against my ears. Even the usually rowdy Gray lay curled up quietly by the bed, his big eyes unblinking as he stared at the doorway. Memories of my past life fluttered like ghosts, mocking me for being unworthy of love. In the Chin household, I was the money-losing burden. While my sister wore new clothes and ate candy, I was shoveling manure. On her birthday, I lay feverish and ignored in the woodshed. When she skipped school, I was the one who got beaten. When I got my first period, I was terrified and clueless. My mother just gave me a disgusted glance. "You unlucky thing, get out of here and go to the woodshed. Don't dirty my floor." Under the light, the cold edge of the scissors traced across my face and arms. My mother drifted between lucidity and delirium. Ethan tossed me into her room again and again, locking the door behind me. Under the lamp, she ran the scissors over my face and arms again and again, murmuring, "Sophia, look, Mommy avenged you. Will you forgive Mommy?" And Ethan, those eyes full of hatred always fixed on me, "Why aren't you dead yet?" When drunk, he'd storm into my place, his fists and feet raining down like hail. "Go to hell. Why did you come back? Give me Sophia." It feels like I've always suffered in different places, never truly loved by anyone. I live cautiously, but I'm always wrong. It seems I was born a mistake, meant to rot like trash in some forgotten corner. But now, Cole, for me, every second is torturing me. The distant barking of dogs, the moan of the night wind, make me shiver all over. If something happens to him, if he gets caught because I went to steal, if he doesn't come back. The thought plunged me into an ice cave, even my soul trembled. A fierce hatred I had never felt before surged up, not hatred for the Chens or the Jings, not hatred for fate. I hated myself. Why hadn't I frozen to death under the bridge today? Cole came back safely, but what about next time? I guessed they had no parents. Otherwise, how could 3 half-grown children live in such hardship, sallow and thin, struggling to survive in a drafty earthen house? Compared to them, I was lucky. At least in the Chan and Jing households, they hadn't deliberately starved or mistreated me. In the middle of the night, when Ava carefully brought the warmed milk to my lips, I kept my mouth tightly shut and refused to eat. Someone like me didn't deserve Cole risking his life. Seeing that I absolutely wouldn't eat, the 3 of them grew anxious. "Why won't she eat? Is she ill?" Cole pressed the back of his hand to my forehead, his tone frantic. Gray stamped his foot nervously at the side, piling his most treasured bell and little stones all around me, trying to cheer me up. Ava looked at me, and those clear eyes slowly filled with tears. She picked me up and held me tightly to her chest. The warm teardrops fell onto my face one by one, so hot they almost burned my skin. "Don't cry. It's not worth it." I reached out to wipe her tears, but my flailing arms wouldn't obey, and I could only make ah-ah sounds. Ava looked into my eyes, and there was more compassion there than her years should allow. From my reluctant expression she seemed to have read something else. She choked up and let out a soft sigh. "Nana, did you find out? Found out you were abandoned, and that's why you're so desperate, refusing to eat anything, is that it?" My heart lurched. She held me tighter, her cheek against my forehead, her tears soaking my swaddling clothes. She went on, half to me, half to the child she once was, "Little Nana, it's not easy to come into this world." Those words were like a shaft of light that instantly split apart all the shadows of my past and present lives. "Don't ruin yourself for people who don't love you," she continued, each word weighted with tears, striking into my heart. "If they don't love you, someone else will come to love you." I was abandoned by my parents too. They left me at the orphanage gate and never came back. Her voice trembled with sobs, though she tried to keep calm. And Gray, he was left on the roadside. Brother Cole, he doesn't have parents either. We all know what it feels like to be thrown away. It's so cold, so scary. As she spoke she began to smile. "See, I have Cole and Gray who love me, and now I have you too. We found you, so we're family now. We won't throw you away, never. Don't leave us, okay? You being alive matters to us, very much." From that day on, I began to drink my milk in peace, wanting to grow up quickly. Cole became my dad, Ava became my mom, and Gray fussed about being my little dad. I didn't know why they were so determined to be my parents. Not until much later did Ava tell me, "With a mom and dad, it finally feels like a home." The old earthen house at home was the last bit of attachment Cole's parents had left him. 3 nearly grown children, doing everything they could to feed me, their daughter. Cole would set out before dawn with Gray, slinging a burlap sack over his shoulder, and come back at night carrying plastic bottles and cardboard boxes. Gray couldn't tell value and always picked up pretty stones thinking they were treasures. Cole never said a word. Late at night, Cole would still go to Xinghua village to steal milk, taking only half a tin each time, never greedy. He said that way the owners wouldn't notice, even if they did, they'd only think their livestock were yielding less. The next day he would walk the 5-mile road to Qingshan town to steal sheep's milk. Ava would walk 3 li to slip into the newly built wealthy neighborhood in town. Every time she came back, she always brought lots of treats, but most of all were yarns and fabrics. Under the kerosene lamp, she would untangle and smooth those brightly colored skeins, and stitch by stitch knit unique little sweaters and hats for me. Gray would always casually pocket a toy from the supermarket, just to pull it out and make me laugh when I cried. The love I had never received, they gave me. When I turned 1 and could wobble along holding the wall, the thing I feared most still happened. That night, Cole came home very late. The door was pushed open, and he staggered, embedded in the night framed by the doorway. The first thing he did was shove the still warm bottle of goat milk in his arms at Ava. Ava took it absent-mindedly. After all, she was the one who usually warmed the milk for me. Cole never let anyone else do it. He fell forward like a straight plank and crashed to the ground. We were all terrified. Ava lunged forward and cradled him. Moonlight slanted in and only then did we see clearly. His face was caked with dark, congealed blood, and the wound at his temple gaped grotesquely. Ava's face drained of color in an instant. She and Gray fumbled and hauled Cole onto the bed. She dipped a rag in cold water and dabbed at the blood on his face, then she ran out, grabbed a few familiar herbs, chewed them in her mouth until they were pulp, mixed them with her tears and pressed them to his wounds, and finally bound them tight with strips torn from old clothing. But by the second half of the night, Cole developed a high fever, his whole body burning, mumbling incoherently. "Mom, Dad, don't, leave, don't, abandon, Cole." Tears streamed down the sides of his face. Ava felt his feverish forehead, gritted her teeth, and ran out into the night. Before long, she returned with the village elder. The old man carried an oil lamp, stooped as he stepped into the shabby earthen house. When he saw Cole on the bed, unconscious and covered in blood, he let out a deep sigh, an exhalation full of helplessness and pity. What a sin! He didn't ask more, and laboriously hoisted Cole, who was considerably taller than him, onto his back, and step by step melted into the night. That night, Ava dug her nails in so hard with both hands that her thumbs were raw and bloody without her noticing. Gray held me tightly and sat down next to her. In that suffocatingly long night, from the sobs in Ava's voice, his story was pieced together. He had parents who loved him very much, but when he was 9, they both died in an accident. Relatives passed him around like a hot potato. Nobody wanted to take on this burden. So Cole clutched his parents' photos and stayed alone in that crumbling old house, living off the charity of others, and grew up strong. The next afternoon, the village chief finally carried Cole back. Cole had clean bandages wrapped around his head, his face ashen. He was conscious, but unusually weak. It was only then that the village chief finally noticed my presence. His gaze flicked back and forth between me and the 3 children, his brow growing tighter with each pass. Where did this kid come from? His voice carried an authority that brooked no argument. Found him. Ava's voice was as low as a mosquito's hum. The village chief looked at them, then at the bare walls of the house, his tone growing heavy. You're still children yourselves, how could you possibly raise an infant? Listen to your grandfather. Take her to the police station and let the government find her a good place. It will be better for all of you. Ava and Cole bowed their heads and fell silent. I looked at Cole, who still had blood-stained gauze wrapped around his head, at Ava, clutching the hem of her clothes tightly, at Gray, bewildered. I couldn't be a burden to them, couldn't let Cole risk himself again. I had to leave. I summoned every ounce of strength, tore myself from Gray's embrace, staggered to the village chief, lifted my head, and clearly, forcefully uttered the truest and most false words of my life, of both my lives. Give him away. Ava snapped her head up, staring at me in disbelief, tears instantly welling in her eyes. I avoided her gaze, pointed to the door, and repeated with even more resolve, "Go." I still went with Grandpa the village chief, and in the end I was taken to the town orphanage. The moment the door closed, I heard Gray's hoarse cry, "Nana, are you not going to keep Daddy anymore?" I heard Ava's suppressed sobs, and the muffled thud of Cole's fists striking the earthen wall. Life at the orphanage was monotonous, neither good nor bad. Only at night no one would use a stolen bell to make me laugh, and no one would carefully feed warm milk to the corner of my mouth. But my 3 parents did not forget me for a single day. They came every day. In the southeast corner of the orphanage stood a centuries-old locust tree. Ava would sneak in to see me, and Cole would keep watch nearby. Ava came almost every day. Sometimes she brought a small piece of cookie she'd hidden away, sometimes a flattened wildflower. She would quickly tell me what Brother Cole had done that day, or what silly thing Gray had said. But more often, she would anxiously press, "Nana, has any uncle in a suit and tie come to see you here? Did Director Mom ever send you alone to the office to meet those uncles?" There was a kind of anxiety and fear in her questions that I couldn't comprehend. Her questions left me baffled. It wasn't until that day that the answer was revealed in the cruelest way. It was an afternoon. Ava came to see me as usual. At that moment, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit with an air of genteel refinement was walking out of the office building accompanied by the director, as if inspecting something. Ava's eyes inadvertently swept over the man. She froze where she stood, her face went as pale as paper in an instant. Her whole body began to tremble uncontrollably, and a fierce hatred flared in her eyes, only to be swallowed a moment later by overwhelming terror. She spun around abruptly and pressed me tightly into her chest, using her slight back to block the man's view. I could feel, as clear as day, her unease, her fear. In that moment I understood. Her earlier strange questions sprang from her own wounds. That man who seemed so cultivated must have once hurt her deeply. But I had still underestimated human nature. The man came again, late at night. The commotion of the director carrying Flora from the bed next to mine outwoke me. Compelled by some strange impulse, I slipped out barefoot and followed. The office window wasn't shut properly. I stood on tiptoe and peered through the gap, and what I saw froze my blood. Ava's ashen face and her uncontrollable trembling rushed back to me. I understood everything. What she had endured was exactly this kind of hell. In that moment, murderous intent sprang up in my heart like wild grass. I had to send him to hell. From that day on, I kept myself spotless, playing quietly where he could see me. I smiled sweetly at everyone. Sure enough, he took a liking to me. That evening I slipped back to the old house and placed the note I had written earlier in the most conspicuous spot on the table. At night, the headmistress indeed came. She picked me up and soothed me gently. I thought we were still going to that office. It was only when she put me into the back seat of a stranger's car that my heart dropped. We were going somewhere else. A huge wave of fear washed over me. I almost reflexively tried to open my eyes and abort this dangerous plan. Just then, Ava's voice rang clearly in my mind, "Nana, wonderful. You can roll over now. Nana, amazing. You can crawl already. Nana, come try on the clothes Mommy made, see if they fit?" Those warm snippets flashed by, finally freezing on her eyes, overlaid with fear. My restless heart miraculously calmed. Perhaps the heavens let me live again just to meet them. Now I have the long-awaited warmth. Today, even if I die because of it, that would be the most important value and ultimate meaning of this life. They laid me on a soft bed, the delicate texture of the fabric sent a chill down my spine. Before long, a man came in, carrying a nauseating scent. His fingers were cold as they traced my cheek, making my whole body tremble. So sweet. He began undoing the buttons at my collar. I snapped my eyes open and put on a look of bewilderment and fear. "Uncle, who are you? Where is Director Mommy? How did I end up here?" The man paused, then pulled a genteel smile. "Don't be scared, little one. Director Mommy sent you here. Let Uncle take care of you for the night." While he was distracted by speaking, I quietly slid back a little. Why did Director Mama send me here? I continued to play the innocent. Because you're the most obedient, you behave the best. He leaned in, his breath spraying across my face. Uncle will reward you, with a banana. A chill shot up from my feet to the top of my head. I forced down the rising nausea, screaming in my mind, Ava, Cole, hurry up. Uncle, I don't like bananas. I watched him warily. I want to go back now, okay? No, you can't. His smile cooled, a hint of impatience flashing in his eyes. Seeing his patience wearing thin, I thought quickly and pointed at the light switch. Uncle, let's turn off the lights and play hide and seek. If you can catch me in the dark, I'll do whatever you say. The man's eyes suddenly lit up. Really? Really? I nodded hard. Slap. The light went out, and the darkness swallowed everything. Using my small body, I slipped past the wardrobe, rolled under the bed, and hid behind the curtains. The man fumbled clumsily in the dark, his breathing grew heavy, and he never once found me. Didn't expect you'd be such a clever little thing. His voice carried a teased irritation, his patience completely gone. Too bad, Uncle isn't in the mood to play with you anymore. Slap. The light snapped on. Under the glaring beam, I was curled up behind the huge flower pot on the balcony, exposed with nowhere to hide. Little girl, what are you hiding from? He licked his lips. Be good, tell me what you want and Uncle will buy it for you. He spoke words of coaxing, but his hands were already making a new move. He turned to the wardrobe and began rummaging. Found you. He slammed the closet door shut and peered under the bed. I flinched. Not here? Not under the bed. His footsteps began to circle the room. Where could you be hiding? Little girl, come out on your own. His voice had the teasing of a cat toying with a mouse, and an unmistakable edge of menace. If I have to pull you out myself, the taste of it will be very different. I clamped my hand over my mouth, holding my breath, my heart hammering wildly in my chest. Footsteps stopped. Finally found you. A shadow fell over me. He bent down, that nauseating face appearing before my eyes, wearing a victorious smile. The next second, the world spun. I was roughly thrown back onto the bed, the thin fabric tearing into shreds. Deliciously tempting. His gaze was murky and feverish, his breath hot against my face. I can't wait to enjoy this. His tone shifted, laced with cruel excitement. But to punish you for being so clever just now, Uncle has to teach you a lesson first. He yanked me and pulled a slender leather whip from the bedside drawer. Now, he licked his lips, his excitement warped, you can run. I turned and ran, but there was nowhere to hide in the cramped space. Crack. A sharp sound, the whip sliced the air and slammed into my back. A searing pain exploded, and I fell to the floor, too hurt even to find the strength to get up. He strolled over at an unhurried pace, crouched down, and looked at my curled, pain-racked body with something like appreciation. You are the bravest little girl I've ever seen. His voice was low, carrying a perverse satisfaction. The more you are like this, the more it turns me on. His hand reached for his belt. Click. The soft snap of metal, my heart sank, and I resolved to dash for the bedpost. At that critical moment, bang. The door was slammed open from the outside by a tremendous force, splinters flying. Don't move. Police. Nana. Ava's heart-wrenching cry rang out. She rushed in, ignoring everything, and with a trembling body shielded me desperately. Right behind her came Cole, his eyes bloodshot. Without a word he took off his coat and quickly wrapped it tightly around my almost naked body. Then he spun around abruptly. Without a moment's hesitation, Cole's fists, fueled by rage, struck, one punch, then another, landing hard on the man who had just been so arrogant. The room was left only with the man's anguished screams. To take better care of me, Cole, Ava, and Gray found a way and entered the same orphanage as I did. The day I was admitted to university, the game company Cole founded released an indie game called Bridge Hole. Players control a tiny point of light, searching for companions amid cold ruins to build together a home that shelters from wind and rain. The game's description had only one line: for all those who, in the darkness, gave me light and a family. Ava founded her own clothing brand, a name she chose herself, Rebirth. The brand's most iconic touch was that every garment's lining was embroidered with a handwritten phrase: "You are precious, you deserve to be loved." Her first batch of models were all children abandoned in the orphanage, whose eyes shone like stars. What surprised me most was Gray. He became a painter. He no longer needed to steal colored paper and stones, instead he possessed an entire ocean of color. In his paintings there were always four small figures clinging to one another. When he was 23, a work titled Rebirth shook the art world. There were no distinct faces on the canvas, only the silhouettes of four children huddled together. Behind them lay a broken bridge and a bitter winter, yet beneath their feet bloomed brilliant sunflowers that spread to the horizon. The painting was bought at auction by an anonymous collector for $15 million. In an interview, Gray only held the microphone and spoke with a serious, measured voice: "Nana, brother, sister, and home." Time had at last turned the small glimmer we once stole into a galaxy of stars. This spring, Cole and Ava are getting married. The invitation was drawn by Gray himself, Cole and Ava embracing beneath the morning sun, their black hair turned white. On the eve of the wedding, the four of us returned to the old house. Cole held Ava's hand tightly, and Gray, just like when he was a child, took my hand. Ava looked at us, her eyes glittering with tears, yet she smiled with utter happiness. "Little Nana, look, we really built a home for ourselves, a very big home." I took from my bag the crumpled note I had kept for years. It was the last message I left on the old stove the day I decided to sacrifice myself. "If I die, please live on smiling." To the astonishment of everyone, I tore it gently apart and scattered it to the wind. I hadn't expected that in this second life I would run into Ethan again. On the tree-lined avenue at university, when Ethan saw me, his pupils suddenly contracted and a look of panic flashed across his eyes. I pretended not to notice and walked straight past him. Still, a sliver of doubt crossed my mind. I remembered clearly that in my last life Sophia's grades weren't nearly enough for Harbin Institute of Technology. She only got into Nanjing University. Why had the trajectory changed this time? I didn't want to probe too deeply. After all, the campus is huge, running into someone is rare. But that afternoon, Ethan blocked my way. "Nana," he said in a dark tone, with his habitual commanding cadence, "you'd better stay away from Sophia, or what?" A cold, clear voice came from behind him. Cole took a few steps and stood at my side. He now carried himself erect, and his steady presence instantly overshadowed Ethan's bravado. I immediately looped my arm through his affectionately and cried out happily, "Brother! We've all grown up." I refused to call them Daddy and Mummy, too embarrassing. Ethan heard that brother, instinctively answered, then realized I wasn't calling him at all. His brows screwed together tight. "Who did you call that?" I rolled my eyes at him and, grabbing Cole, turned to leave, dropping a light remark, "None of your damn business." After a few steps, Cole finally asked softly, "You know him?" "No," I scoffed, "maybe some psycho. He came over and warned me to stay away from some Sophia, totally random." After that, Ethan seemed to haunt me. Every time he heard me call Cole or Gray brother, his brows would knit as if to pinch a fly, his expression so complicated it was baffling. Finally, Sophia couldn't sit still. She stopped me under the dormitory building, her tone petulant and her words barbed. I listened quietly, then, amid the rising gasps around us, I raised my hand and slapped her cleanly and decisively. The smack was crisp and loud. "Do you think everyone loves your brother like he's money?" I flicked my wrist and sneered. Ethan rushed over at the news and, seeing the red mark on Sophia's face, was instantly furious. "Nana! How can you still be so vicious?" I didn't hesitate. I slapped him across the face with my other hand. "First, I'm not the Nana you're talking about. Second, it was your sister who started being nasty and looking for trouble with me. I glanced around, my eyes sweeping over every onlooker. Haven't you heard that saying? The one who flirts first is the cheap one. Ava, Cole, Gray and I had agreed to return to the old house together for the new year. That was our true home. I never expected that at the familiar alley entrance we would run into the Jings, waiting there. They wore expensive coats that clashed with the ruin around them. Victor stepped forward, contempt in his eyes and a patronizing tone. Nana, we've already figured it out. You're our biological daughter. Come home with me. Exactly like my previous life. Eleanor's eyes instantly reddened, excited, she reached out to embrace me, my daughter. I stepped back, avoiding her touch. Her hand froze in midair, her face was full of astonishment and hurt. Oh. I replied, my voice betraying not a single ripple. Victor was extremely displeased with my reaction, his brows knitted. Nana, know your place. Going back to the Jings is the best choice for you. I laughed, a cold laugh without any attempt to hide it. Mr. Victor, I heard your son Ethan fell in love with your daughter Sophia, and you caught them in the act? I said with relish, savoring the sudden change in their faces. Then Ethan confessed on the spot that Sophia isn't biologically related. You rushed to find me, didn't you, hoping to use me, the real heiress, to salvage your plummeting stock, and conveniently and lawfully shove that fake daughter who shamed you out the door. My gaze swept over their faces, tinged with green and white, then I fixed my eyes firmly on Cole, Ava, and Gray beside me. But why should I go back? I hooked my arm through Ava's and Cole's. Gray immediately pressed close to my side. Look, I have my own parents, I said with a laugh, my voice clear and steady. They may not be much older than me, but they gave me something you could spend a lifetime trying to give and never succeed. After saying that, I shut them out. Later, I heard the Jing family had gone completely bankrupt. Sophia stole all of Jing Corporation's core secrets, sold them to their rivals, took the money and fled, whereabouts unknown. One winter evening, I had just come out of Cole's office when a man, looking haggard, stopped me on the corner. He wore an old overcoat that didn't suit the season, his hair was disheveled, his eyes rimmed with red veins. It was Ethan. Nana, his voice hoarse and dry, thick with regret and pleading, I was wrong, I really know I was wrong. I watched him in silence, watched this brother who in a past life shoved me down the stairs and in this life abandoned me in the bridge tunnel, now reduced to such a pitiful state. How delightful. It was my damn fault in the past, blinded by lard. I shouldn't have treated you that way. This life, I definitely shouldn't have thrown you away. He choked on his words, tears threatening, every single day I regret it, regret throwing you. He reached out, trying to grasp my sleeve. I stepped back, my gaze icy. Nana, please, give me a chance, let me make it up to you. He knelt down. I know I have nothing now, but in the future. Ethan. I interrupted him calmly. I can't forgive you, but I don't hate you either. He stared at me in astonishment. You left me in the bridge tunnel, wanted me to die. But I was reborn. I paused, my gaze sweeping over the glittering lights of the street, where Cole and Ava had lit a home for me. From the moment Cole and the others picked me up, I had a home. I looked at his face, written over with pain and regret, and finally said, I'm going home now. They're waiting for me to eat. After speaking, I didn't look at him again, I turned and walked across the street. There, Cole was standing by the car waiting for me, and Gray was inside, vigorously waving at me.